Hello, everyone. This is episode 45 of the Quick Resume podcast. Welcome back. My name is Deck. That's Tim over there. And we have some pretty big bits of news this week. I mean, some things have happened, only maybe the best video game of all time to ever release. No biggie, really. And also lots of other things, really. Steam Deck with Games Pass, Call of Duty taking a break, Nintendo joining the acquisition race. Wow. I hope you stick around to find out what happens. Cool. Tim, how are you, buddy?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm feeling a little bit better. Finally getting over my my sickness.
Oh, that's right.
Which is good. So I've only been ill for like a month, so that's pretty good. It's pretty good going. But yeah. So I'm feeling a little bit better. I'm feeling a little bit more upbeat, and I mean, it's fucking Elden Ring came out, right?
Elden Ring did come
Hold
out.
on.
Oh.
I think I've disconnected. Give me 2
I did
seconds.
it.
Yeah, technical difficulties. Elden Ring came out obviously this week, and that's essentially just consumed my life since when? When did we start playing it? We started playing it Thursday, didn't we? Thursday, like evening.
Yeah, because we went to New Zealand, mate.
Yeah, we took a little trip to New Zealand. Quite expensive, but worth it.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, definitely worth it.
But yeah, so we've been playing that for so long. I think I've clocked almost a day in it now. So I check
really?
my game time. Yeah, like obviously a lot of that is just it counts just you being on the menu. So like
idle time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like if I'm just sitting at a Grace and gone to dinner, or sitting at a Grace and doing other things, that is racking up my game time. So realistically, I've still probably done a solid like 17 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of bonkers. But if anyone has played this game, you know why. Like, you know why it is so easy to just lose yourself inside of this game. Like, it's been such a long time that I've genuinely just lost the concept of time playing a game.
Yeah.
It's crazy, dude.
It is crazy. And I mean, this is a game that, I mean, up until yesterday, I think was sitting on 97 OpenCritic. I think it's dropped down to 96 now, but it's currently the number one rated game of all time on OpenCritic. Obviously, OpenCritic only goes so far back, so it doesn't include things like Super Mario World or like Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
So we don't know where they would be by OpenCritic standards. I'm sure someone could take all the reviews and pop it into place. But point being, by OpenCritic standards, it's currently the number one rated game of all time, with above Mario Odyssey was number 2, I think, and Red Dead Redemption 2 was number 3. But it has a higher, decimal score, so that's what puts it above. And this is something special, I think. I think FromSoft have, I'm not going to be saying anything that other reviewers haven't already said. And we probably will talk spoilers a little bit. I think it's going to be hard to avoid.
Yeah.
So if you're not interested, I'd recommend just skipping ahead. I'll leave a time mark for when we stop talking about Elden Ring. I remember, I remember when we would play Dark Souls back in the day, and this just feels kind of like, I say back in the day, we were literally playing Dark Souls 3, a couple of months ago, but you know what I mean, like on launch or whatever, and this just feels like an evolution of that in almost every way. There are some things which FromSoft have always been perfect at. They've always been perfect at environment design and art direction and music and creature design, but there have been holes, I think, in some of their design. Sometimes quality of life is usually a bit jank. And then this, that, and the other. And this just kicks all of that up to 11 and plugs the holes as well. And I'm about 20 hours in myself. And I'm just amazed at how dense it is.
Yeah.
Just there's so much of it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like I could genuinely, like, if you weren't on or you were gone for a long period of time, I could genuinely just not do anything related to the main story, just run around and easily not feel bad about it or feel like I'm being held back or
Or wasting
anything.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not wasting time. I could easily do that for like 6 hours, just easy. And then you come back
Yeah.
and it's just like, what have you done? And I'm like, well, I found this, and this. I pinned it all on my map. Let's go get it for you as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And yeah, for those listening as well, we are kind of playing it co-op. We're kind of doing like a hybrid. We're not doing everything co-op. Um, but we're trying to stick main story wise to a bit co-op, and then
Mm.
we kind of just branch off, do our own things, and then if it's something, because we're aware of each other's builds and what characters we're trying to do, if it's something we know that each other might quite like, then we ping it on the map and we get each other in a world and do that. But yeah, and surprisingly also very happy with how the servers have held up as well. Haven't really had any multiplayer issues. Maybe a sign or two not appearing every now and again for some odd reason, but then we like put it just outside the grace area and it was kind of worked.
Mm.
But considering their issues in the past with this sort of thing, I'm actually pretty chuffed with that. Considering I imagine how much the servers were getting rammed this weekend as well.
Yeah.
So it is quite impressive.
It had like on Steam, I think the game had like 670,000 concurrent players when the most the Souls series had ever got, I think, was Dark Souls 3 with 200,000.
Yeah,
So it was like, it's like triple the amount. I think it was that. Maybe it was more, but those are the numbers that stick in my head. Yeah, like you said, so like playing co-op has been a bit of a joy as well. And you know what? It's been one of my favorite things about this has actually been playing it with like a few people, like having a small community. Because like you find stuff and you report back, like you said, and then you pin it on the map and you say, "Well, I just found this thing here. I'll kind of join my game and I'll guide you to it," sort of thing. And then this really, I really like this like feature, this new the groups feature. I didn't know that was a thing, but I think that's just a really neat little thing that really makes it feel more connected, which
yeah,
I think is what they always want with these games, don't they? They want it to feel connected without feeling kind of invasive, which is obviously funny because you can get invaded.
yeah,
But yeah, you basically put a group password in. So let's say you've got you yourself and 10 other friends, you all put the same password in, and it makes it so that you're more like not only more likely to see some of the multiplayer features, but they're highlighted a bit differently to you. So like you see bloodstains and it will have a particular like pattern around the outside of the bloodstain, and you'll know, oh, that's someone in my group, and you click on it and you can usually recognize who they are. Same presumably goes for messages, and summon signs look a bit different as well. But I just thought that things like that's a really nice like touch. And it's just been fun working through it, especially for people who are new to the Souls like franchise. Like just going through that because we're new to this to this game as well, and there's just there's so much untapped here that it's like, and it's so dense that you just are constantly finding something new to like talk about. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. It's that is a really cool feature, and I think they kind of put that in because I think they knew just how big this game was going to be, and they were just like, there's going to be so much shit. There's going to be so many bloodstains. There's going to be so many messages everywhere. They were just like, it'd be kind of cool if we could just filter this out for people, and they could just have it within like their group of friends and stuff like that. So it's just not just stuff everywhere. So yeah, I think it's a really cool feature. Um, and yeah, dude, the game it does so much new, but also keeps so much familiar.
Oh, Tim, you've just been muted. If you could, do you want to just unmute yourself for a second? Sorry.
I muted this whole time.
It's just no, you haven't. I just slipped and clicked the wrong button.
Okay, all right, we're good. Yeah. So I'll say in our friend group, we're sort of the only ones that have put a lot of time into like FromSoft games and stuff like that. Like I know, I think both of them are actually brand new to the Souls formula that we're playing with. So we have had to explain quite a lot of stuff, and I do think the game could do better at ushering in new players into the formula. They've always been quite bad at that. But then it's also kind of their charm as well. But I can see it being quite frustrating for new players when you're literally just not told mechanics. There's being difficult, and then there's just not being told something, and there's kind of like a difference. But yeah, so we have had to explain quite a lot of stuff, and they've made a few blunders and things like that, which is just, that's just the familiarities with the series, right? We're used to it, they're not, so
yeah. One of our mates picking the warrior class, which starts with the lowest faith stat.
Yeah.
And then we were like, what have you been leveling? And he walked us through his stats, and it was like, yep, that's the same as base. That's the same as base. And then he's like, faith 17. My man's has put 9 levels worth of points into faith. And then when we asked him why, he said, I got a cool weapon that has a really high faith requirement. And we're like, he didn't even, this isn't how you do it.
He didn't even have spells on or anything. He wasn't using fireballs or like incantations or anything. He just had a high faith stat and he had a fucking sword. That was it.
Yeah. Poor man.
Yeah. So there is stuff like that where it's just, it could be a little bit better at explaining all that sort of stuff. And, they could do that with just like I don't know, just are you new to the Souls series? Are you new to this sort of series when you boot up the game? And then maybe if you press yes, it just gives you a little book. It's just like, oh, we've added a book of tips to your inventory then. And then you can just go in there and read it, something like that, still make it user.
There is actually a bit there in your inventory, isn't there, with like all of the tips and stuff?
I think so, but I think you also have to get those tips prompt on your screen first. And then they're safe for later. And I still think there are some tips that it just doesn't explain to you. Like I think there's so much that you do just have to figure out, especially when it comes to what spells you can use, what's an incantation, what's a sorcery, do you need a seal to use this, do you need staff to use this, how do you upgrade weapons, what do arts of war do, and how do you equip them?
That's right.
It's all you very much have to figure out yourself. So I think if they just gave new players just a book, just like fucking have it, then great. And then
4,000 pages big.
Just drops on your lap. But I do think they could do that. But I mean, the game's a freaking masterpiece. I mean, I was just playing today and I figured out an area that we've been in. Again, I guess kind of spoilers, but an area we've been in, the castle Morn area, in like the bottom of the map. And there's that Grace which you can spawn at, and there's like a merchant just next to it out in the grass. Apparently if you go there at nighttime, there's a boss that just walks around there.
Oh, with the on the horseback.
Yeah,
I've seen him. I tried to kill him once and he got fucked.
Oh, okay, yeah. I killed him today and got a cool Art of War from it. And then apparently if you go even further on and jump up some rocks in the same area just past him, if it's still nighttime, there's another secret boss that flies around with a pack of bats, and it's a giant, but it's called like Deathbird or something.
Deathbird.
And it's disgusting. It's awful to look at.
A band name.
Deathbird is pretty good, yeah. But yeah, it's rotten, it's gross, and it killed me like 5 times, and I maybe hit it twice. It's so difficult. It's just a straight up boss. But then you do that same route at daytime, nothing.
I love it, man. I love it. It's just so dynamic.
It's just
the
random.
world is so dynamic. Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, and there's also like this bit again, where there's these guys just like mining on some rocks, just having a little more mine. Shitty characters give you like 2 souls if you kill them, but if you kill all of them, all 4 of them, a massive puff of smoke happens, and then a giant bear gets summoned out of nowhere and starts attacking you. Like the bear from the trailers. That's how you find it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it in game, but I know what you're talking about.
That's how you find it.
Wow.
Just kill 4 random guys and it just pops out. It's like there's some kind of ritual. They're like tied to like a ritual or something. Like, what? I just don't understand. It's so cool though.
Yeah. It is so cool, yeah. And then you'd because I've had a couple of times where I've been like, because I wouldn't, like what you were describing earlier with like sometimes the onboarding process of From games being a bit like obtuse.
Yeah.
You probably haven't either, but I haven't felt any of that friction, which is obviously good for me. And so because I am familiar with those systems already, I've been like reading a lot more stuff than I usually would, like books and weapons and spells, just because like I know this is going to connect to something somehow. And there's been a couple of times where I've like looked at something and been like, oh, that's kind of sounds familiar to the thing that I was doing over there, or just things like that. And I've just been able to like draw. Cool. And I know From's games have always been good at it, but I've just never been very like attentive in following how they do their story, explaining and stuff. But yeah, man, it's so dynamic, and if every time you turn a corner, you can never really be sure that you're going to see the same thing you saw last time. And that's I think that's what makes it so like it's just engaging to walk around in the open world, because it'll be different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's it's kind of crazy. I'm just having so much fun just exploring and just doing all kinds of shit. And yeah, there's just so much that's just left up to the player as well. And like you said, like your knowledge of just how deep you kind of want to go. Like you get something, do you go into your inventory and press X on it and read it and actually just be like, oh, okay, that goes with that. It's like me playing these games in the past. I immediately went to all the merchants that I found so far and just bought like all of their cookbooks off them, because I was just like, this is going to come in handy. I was just like, the game's not telling me to do it, but like I know this is useful information based on how I've done it in the past. But like there are people that probably haven't bought a single cookbook, but like I've just got like such a large list of stuff I can craft to like cure poison and bleed and all that kind of stuff in the world now. And it didn't even cost me that much. It only cost me like 8,000 souls, but it's left to the player to decide, whether they think that's useful time spent or resource spent, which is really cool. I do really like that.
Yeah, it's great. It's definitely something that the game kind of excels in just kind of plopping all of the stuff in the world and being like, do what you want to do. And yeah, it's more because I think there was like a certain point when I was playing, maybe 10 hours in, where I was like, this map actually isn't that big. It's not that big. Like just one map, I was like, is there like a second map that you're going to extend outwards? Like it's big, but it's not like I think probably I was having this conversation with Beth. Like I think the Breath of the Wild map is probably bigger, and obviously bigger doesn't mean better. That's not where I'm going with this. But I was like, just because I was enjoying moving around it so much, but then the more you move around it, you're just like, how is there more here? And I'm coming back to that same point of denseness, but it's just like it's the thing that's amazed me the most about the game, because it's crazy, and it's crazy like how hard they are trying to hide shit from you.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe it. Like, there are times there was like after the Stormvale Castle that we did, which is like a whole other conversation we need to have. But it like spits you out by a grace that I already had, and I was like, there was an entrance here this whole time.
Yeah, I had that exact same
at the cliffside, and I was like, what the fuck? How had I not seen this? Like, it's just stuff like that, and this is part of what I mean. Like when I'm saying, it is dynamic, but it feels more dynamic because the game is so stuffed, and they're trying so hard to hide stuff from you that you will come across like stuff on your second visit, on your third visit, on your fourth visit, and that's what's bonkers for me, because I can't say I've had that feeling before. I just think the design of this map so far, anyway, is like absolutely like 11 out of 10.
Yeah, it's so good. Like never is your time wasted, like ever. And it's like even if it's something I don't necessarily need, like if I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try and kill this death bird after we wrap up this fucking podcast, because it's killing me not to be playing Elden Ring right now. But it's like,
of course,
I might not get something useful from that, but I don't care, because I'm going to remember, and I'm going to be like, if I do a build later on, or I come back, or I do a different playthrough, I'm gonna want to prioritize this boss to get this item and stuff like that. So it never feels like time is wasted. You always get rewarded for something, Never have I ever like gone to an area that just looked nice, but I just killed a few people and left. No, there's always an item, there's always an ingredient, there's always a spell, there's always like a bug or something like that I get out of war. Like it's just never wasting your time, and it boggles my mind just to think how much is in this game in terms of weapons, skills, spells, everything. Like, oh my god,
NPCs.
yeah, I can't even imagine it. Kind of, oh, it's kind of doing my head in, just sort of thinking just how insane and how much stuff there is in this game. But yeah, I'm I'm just having an absolute blast with it, man. It deserves all of the reception it's got. It's everything we wanted it to be. It's an overhyped game
totally
that lived up to the hype, if not actually.
Yeah, right.
Just did better than the hype. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there have been moments where I've been playing this game, and again, I say I'm only 20 hours in. I feel that's more than enough time to like make a fair analysis. But there are times where I've been playing this and I've been thinking this might be the best game I've ever played. Like, or at least in its own genre, this might be the best, because it's just the sheer fact of like, there's all of this, and then there's like co-op features, and then there's like invasion. And the thing is, about one of the things we've always loved about Souls games is they are a bit obtuse and a bit they're a bit difficult to get going with. But once you kind of have an idea of what you want to do, the way that everything's balanced, because everything is viable, once the claws of a Souls RPG is in you, like there's no escaping. Like they're really deep, and they're like there's so much to it that it just makes you want to like constantly improve that. And there, I've like hit that crest now where I'm like, where am I going to go next with my build? What can happen next? What, like, am I going to find a weapon that's going to like mix it up, or a spell that's going to make me kind of like not respec, but like build around it, and just things like that. You start having those kind of thoughts to yourself at a certain point after you start getting enough stuff, and that's just when you factor in everything else we've already said about the enemies in the world and everything else. It just adds this other like thick layer of addiction.
It's it's kind of crazy. The early parts of a Souls game can be quite daunting, can be quite overwhelming. And you're like, where do I go in this game? Especially in this game, it's like it's literally giving me like 100 different directions. Like what's happening, and especially for people not familiar with the Souls formula, I can imagine it's just they just don't even know like what to do, where to start, but like you said, once you find a weapon, you find like a spell, and you're like, it just gets its hooks in you, and you're just like, okay, this is kind of what I want to do. And then that's it. It's just, I don't know, they just do such a good job at it, because I kind of had that feeling when I first started this game, because I was like, it's just too open. There's like, I don't know, there's like a name for it, but when a game just gives you too many options and you just don't know kind of which route to go down.
Choice paralysis.
Choice paralysis. Like, I kind of had that, and I was literally just like, I just don't even know like what's going on. But then I kind of got my feet under the desk, and dude, I just like I just had like an out of body experience, and like I'm here now. Like, I don't even know what happened to my last 2 days.
Like, I think it is interesting, because there is like a conversation I want to have with you about kind of like the nature of this style of RPG. I think a lot of people, what it's getting a lot of praise for is not just being an open world Dark Souls game, but it's like, one of these like new, like neo open world games where it's like, not icon based, and you kind of, it's like the Breath of the Wild style is how a lot of people make that comparison. And there's a conversation to be had there, which I've just noted down actually, so we'll come back to that, because I wanted to talk about the first dungeon. I think that's what I called in this game, right? And I'm talking about Stormvale Castle that we did together. We did that whole thing together, and holy shit, everything about that. How long was it? How long was that? 4 or 5 hours that we were doing that?
I think longer.
Can you not? I can remember like almost everything that happened. Like,
Yeah.
it was just so memorable. Like, and I just think it's such a mark. It's such a mark of a well designed like area, and like these areas are huge. These are like bigger than like Dark Souls dungeons, like your typical Dark Souls ones, and it's just one part of the open world,
Yeah.
And we were like doing ridiculous shit. We would like turn a corner and see more, and then as it all like crescendoed towards the end when we got to the bosses, all the paths started interlinking, and you're like, how have they done this?
Yeah.
What is happening to these people's brains to give them such wisdom?
Yeah, I don't understand I still don't understand how it all connected in the end. Because like I
Yeah.
swear, at one point we were just like rooftop hopping between towers, and then we just ended up opening a shortcut to where we were like 2 hours ago, and I was like, I've only gone south. Like how? How am I back east? Like, how's that happened? I just don't. Yeah, it's so. But it's just it's beautiful. Like it literally is like a masterpiece of level design. That Stormvale Castle. There are still avenues we haven't explored. It's like doing it for like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just incredible. It really was. And it was exhausting at the same time, but it was just so good. And it's such a nice change of scenery as well from the open world grassy area you've been in to then going to this really beautiful looking castle, brick, stone everywhere. And then obviously you do that, you beat the boss, and you're straight back out into this open world, and like a new like swampy sort of misty area as well, just like whole new terrain again. Like they do such a good job at transitioning you without making you feel too tired of the same area. But yeah,
definitely.
No, yeah.
I just remember it all already, and I can already tell that this is like when I look back at like kind of my opening hours with Elden Ring, I'm gonna have some very like crystallized memories of like, I remember that time that we were running down that open like greenway, and there was a giant man with an bow and arrow launching arrows at us. Yeah, I remember that time we were hopping around on the rooftops, and there was a fucking pyromancy bird we had to fight. And just shit like that. Like I just remember all of it, because it just so enjoyable to go through, and to have the option to do it co-op is. It's just like you just don't get that in open world RPGs anymore. It's just not. I say anymore. It's just not a thing that happens often. And they've like made it, even though there is a bit of weirdness with how these systems work. Like you have to do bosses multiple times. Like if you unlock a grace, it doesn't unlock it for both of you. You're an inhabitant in someone else's world. That's how it kind of works. And I think the way that I've always thought about Souls games is that they're single player games with the option for co-op. These are not co-op games. Yeah, and that's kind of how I think about it, because there is an element of like, oh, why can't I just join, or why can't there be an easier system? But the other part of my brain is like, it would kind of ruin what they're going for, the artistry of like, it's a community challenge. There are other people struggling here. You're joining worlds rather than just like, Deck has joined joined the battle or whatever. It wouldn't quite have the same, wouldn't slap quite the same. So
yeah, I kind of agree. And plus it just creates all the great moments of, like you said, just like remembering and mapping out these areas in your mind to then do it again for your friend and stuff like that. And yeah, there are so many, like you said, like memories, and so much I've memorized of this game already that I've only done it once, but I think that just goes to show just how much of an impression it made on you just that first time, because I can remember it, I can map it out in my brain, and I could go downstairs and just tell my brother what's coming around that corner, what's going up there, what items up there, all that. But I've only done it once. Like that's it. It's just like, it's just, I don't know. But then I've always been like that with Souls games. Like I can go into Dark Souls 2 and pretty much narrate the entire game, and same with Dark Souls 3. But like,
which is quite impressive, but nonetheless, like you said, it speaks volumes to the design. It's with point of interest, and it's designed to be that way, so that when you get lost, you can say, "Oh yeah, I recognize that thing up there. That means I must be." So you can orientate yourself. Amazing. I think that's what I wanted to say. Is that they've always when you thankfully. We complained about this on the show before when games do this thing where they give you like half-assed co-op where you join someone else's game and you're not even your own character and you're there to just help someone else and that doesn't give you any progress at all. Obviously, in Souls games you can still earn runes, you can still pick up. You can now. That's I guess where I was going with this. Like
and items.
Now stuff gets dropped, and I don't know if that was ever a thing before. I don't know if stuff could get dropped if you were not the host.
I don't think so.
I think that's new. Like there are a few times I've picked up weapons and armor in your world, and that it just adds another layer of like I'm getting a lot out of being here and actually helping. You know.
Yeah.
And they've smoothed out the whole process of like going hollow or what was it called in Dark Souls 3? No.
Yeah. Being embered.
Embered, that's right. Yeah. So they've smoothed out that, and you don't have this really rare material or resource that you need to use to actually summon each other in. It's this really easy to craft material, that I've got like 70 of, so like,
yeah,
I'm so glad that's gone because that would have been a right pain in the ass. So yeah, just all of that has been smoothed out. And it just makes that co-op experience better. I'm really excited to see this game in like maybe a week's time when like people are invading and people are like using rings because there's like a blue sentinel ring. Have you seen it? The one.
Oh no, I haven't.
You get the husk, like I keep calling them husk ladies. The merchant at the round table.
Yeah.
That was a ring that says become a hunter and help. There's two rings. There's one to be a hunter and there's one to be to have help from others.
Oh, okay.
So I don't really know if they're like factions. It seems like they might have done away with like the whole faction thing.
Yeah.
I still think there are things like that. It's just they might not have tucked it into.
Does it work as a talisman then? These rings, or does it work?
I assume so.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I'm excited because like I haven't been invaded yet. Because everyone's probably just doing what we're doing and getting absolutely lost in the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, that's going to just make the game like add another layer of freshness to it when that starts becoming more popular.
Yeah, it's just there's just so much to do. I mean, there was so much to do in their previous games, which were so much more linear, and it's just like this is just times 100. And yeah, I'm just so looking forward to just sinking my teeth in. And just doing it because they've definitely catered everything to the fans too. Because there are some people that play Dark Souls 2, 3, whatever. They literally play it like PvP exclusive. So there's going to be some big elements of that. They're not going to just alienate that fan base that likes that area of that game. And it's like we just haven't found it yet. And I'm just so looking forward to it, man.
I'm already excited. Gone.
I was just gonna say I felt like I just only scratched the surface, being like a day's game time in.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you. And I'm already excited about going into like a new game plus, which is ridiculous. I've just done it. I've just done the beginning part of the game, and I'm like, I'm excited to do this again.
Yeah.
And see, because Souls games have always had they've always been really good with new game plus systems. Slight changes throughout, slight increases in difficulty. In Dark Souls 2.
I was going to say, and the most important thing is everything is viable in Souls games. You could do any build under the fucking sun, anything you can think of.
Have fun with it.
Which just helps so much for the replay value and the new playthroughs. So much.
Yeah, I said before, I really want to. I really want to give like an actual like bow build a go. Because bows have always been a bit of an afterthought. Like you could make it work sometimes, but it's still not always been a bit niche. But in the same way that they've worked like incantations and sorceries into like they streamlined it into the combat. I hope like bow and arrows have that same thing as well. And like I've seen some Ash of Wars for bows so far, and I'm like, there's probably some really cool like dex builds, just like pure dex builds you can do. Like Magic Archer, man, that's all I want. Back from Dragon's Dogma. So I'll be keeping an eye out to see if that's something that could possibly be viable on a new game plus run. But
that
very cool.
That would definitely be kind of cool. Yeah, because because obviously you can craft arrows now as well. Like you don't have to just buy them off
Mm.
merchants like you could in previous games. So like at any point, based on what I've gathered, I can make fire, ice, lightning arrows. I can make like I think I found like madness arrows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like and then like you said with the art of wars on the bows as well. Like I genuinely think they've probably catered to like everything in this game. Like it really feels just like such a love child from the studio. They had so much fun making this project, and it clearly shows.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I did want to have this conversation about kind of old school RPGs versus. I called it like a neo RPG, but that's nobody's going to coin that because it sounds fucking stupid. But you know what I mean, like the Breath of the Wild style. It's like icon RPGs, right? Versus like non-icon RPGs.
Yeah,
that's not the best way I can describe it. Hopefully, you will know what I'm talking about.
So like you're more like
with the idea of
you're more like quest tracking, compass, like go here RPGs, or you're just figure it out yourself, place a marker and go there RPGs sort
like
of
follow
style.
your nose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Like follow points of interest, and like I think like this is something that has been really, it's been something that's it has been like a growing conversation in the community about these types of styles of games, and like obviously the big one that just came out was Horizon Forbidden West, and that's very much like an old school. Well, not old school, but yeah, like an icon RPG. Again, like you have checklists, you have a list of side quests, you have a list of main, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's interesting seeing this how much success this new genre is. I don't know if you should call it a new genre, subgenre, whatever. You know what I mean. Where iconless, like you follow points of interest with your eyes, and because the game does such a good job of signposting you from place to place, you're in this constant like thread of, oh, I'm in a new place. Oh, what's that over there? Oh, I'm in a new place. What's that over there? Like it spits you out, so you're looking at something new each time, and that's kind of the flow, rather than being like, I'm going to open my map. Oh, there's an exclamation point over there. Better go there.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I just wanted to have the kind of conversation here. Like, what do you think about like kind of like if this game had a bunch of like icons slapped on the overworld map? Like, is that a worse or a better experience for you, or does it not make a difference?
I think it's a kind of a worse experience for me. To be honest, I think when you open up a map and there's just so many icons on it and so many things everywhere, I feel like that itself could be quite overwhelming to look at and just be like, do I just go here because there's like 5 things in this area and I can just go dot 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 and it's like the most efficient. You kind of like plan this sort of like most efficient route in your brain. I just feel like people are just wired to do that, rather than going down to the bottom of the map to go get that one little thing. That'll be the last thing you get because it's by itself and it seems like a waste of your time, right? But yeah, with this style of RPG that Elden Ring is, you don't have that. You kind of just be like, that is cool, I'll go over there, could be one thing, could lead on to so many more, and it's just that mystery of just not knowing. But let's be honest, it's always something in Elden Ring, which I think it does depend on how it's done as well, because if it's not done properly and it doesn't reward you properly, or it doesn't, it doesn't reward your time properly, then I can imagine it being quite frustrating in this sort of style. But I just think Elden Ring just always nails it in the fact that it's never wasting your time. It's kind of how it's done as well at the same time. But
for sure,
I think I preferred this style. I think I prefer just being like, that is cool, I'm going there, see you boys.
That's right.
I prefer that.
And I think it's a really good point. And I because like you said, you can if we just do like a quick thought experiment, if you're on a map and there's an exclamation point down on the bottom left somewhere, it's surrounded by trees, whatever, you run there and you look for the exclamation point. Like there's something will probably pop up on the HUD.
You ignore your surroundings.
And you click on it and it'll be like, interact with this, and it goes into a puzzle or an NPC, whatever. Yeah, exactly. And if there's nothing there, you go to that area of the map because let's say there's like an obelisk or like a graveyard, and you have a look and you look around, and that's the thing. The game trains you to look around because often there's something. Sometimes, sorry, there's something most of the time, and that something is usually something which you can kind of take away and be useful because there's no like inventory like management or anything like that. You can just pick up whatever you want and carry like infinite stuff. So you're encouraged to just, and stuff doesn't break, so you just like pick up stuff, and once you have it like forever. So that, I think that's kind of what makes it kind of, even if you find something that you're not going to use right now, you have it. And that's, so that I think there's that kind of angle of it, because this is what I always felt about, I never found like Breath of the Wild's world very rewarding, and I found it a bit too sparse sometimes. Like there are times where I was running and like nothing would be engaging me. But say, oh, that looks cool over there, and I'm like, nothing's happening. And then, or I'd like kill up a goblin cap, and it's like, you've got an iron sword, and it's like, yeah, okay, great. I've had 16 of these. Whereas you don't get that in this. There's no weapon duplicates. Well, I mean, there is from drops, but not from like chests. You're usually like 8 times out of 10, it's going to be something new. Whether that's relevant to your current build or not, I mean,
it'll be unique to the area, to the enemy, and to the puzzle that you just solved. And that'll be the only way you can get that.
Yeah, and I think so. As much as that didn't like totally click for me, I definitely appreciated the style of RPG that Breath of the Wild was, and definitely found the engagement there with that. Like I liked moving around the world, even if I did find it a bit empty at times. And no, I don't know if people would draw this comparison, but Outer Wilds is kind of like this as well. Even though it's not like an open world game, but like its whole thing was like, you are piecing these together. There's no quest log. You have to go there and figure out what that means, and go there and do that and link it all together. So it's the same sort of thing. So I guess it's just, I'm interested to see where this genre goes, and like, because it's probably fair to say that Elden Ring has some Breath of the Wild inspiration in there. Having said that, Dark Souls was always like, if they suddenly pivoted over to like having pages of side quests, that would be like weird. Like, what are you doing? This isn't like Souls games have never had that. So at the same time, it's also just a natural evolution of a Souls game. And I'm interested to see how future games kind of pick up on this. Like, I'm thinking about something like Avowed. Like these are games that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm just thinking like, how am I going to feel going back to a style of game where I have to follow icons? Is that, am I just going to adjust to it and it's going to be no big deal, or am I going to be really feeling like I wish, like I'm getting icon fatigue, like just looking at all just side quests and stuff?
Just feel like it's very it just kind of just creates that tunnel vision, doesn't it? I could definitely see that when you kind of get spoiled, because Elden Ring is spoiling us, let's be honest. I could definitely imagine that transition to be quite difficult. It's kind of hard to say. But it definitely makes me weirdly like less excited for something like Avowed now.
I know,
like issues I didn't have with Avowed now. I'm like, I think I might have issues with Avowed now. Like like this has created issues for it in my brain. It's kind of weird to think about.
Definitely. Okay, I'm ready to move on from the Elden Ring discussion. If you are, I just wanted to give one last shout out to all the voice actors, because they're like, and Dark Souls has always done this, but all the voice actors are like English or Irish. They're from the United Kingdom, or Scottish or Welsh, like all of them. I haven't heard of a single like American actor. Not that that matters. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I've picked up on it, and it's just like, why? Like, it's just such an interesting, like, a Japanese company making a Japanese game and being like, get people from different regions of the UK, like loads of Northerners in the game as well.
It's kind of weird.
It's just part of their like part of the world they like to create, isn't it? And they're like, I like to imagine the like, I don't know who does like the voice direction of just being like, accentuate every single sentence you say, because that's what all the voice actors do. Do you know what I mean? They're like, go to the empty castle. Like, it's just very accentuated.
It's even like the beginning, like narration of the game was just crazy. The guy's just like, oh, the contract of betray. And I was literally like, Jesus, man. I was like, this guy's going in right now. Like, he's proper just giving it beans. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's all great. It's all great.
Cool. I mean, we'll continue to report back on Elden Ring, but as it stands at the moment, this game is pretty fun. I couldn't give it anything less than a 9.5 at the moment.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm willing to take points away for at the moment is the fact that there's quite a bit of grass pop in, which probably wouldn't bother many people, but I notice it more than I should, and sometimes it does break my immersion. So
Okay.
hopefully they can they can put out a patch for that. But yeah, any final thoughts on Elden Ring before we leave it for this week?
No, I think that's about it. I think we've covered it for the majority.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, honourable mention to the Witch Queen. Well done. Happy for all of you people out there that are still playing Destiny 2. I obviously couldn't care less now because Elden Ring's in my hands, but I was like genuinely tempted to get back into it for this because it looks amazing, and the current reviews put it at a 9. It's only had 5 reviews because I don't think people had codes beforehand, so it's had 5 reviews and it's averaging at a 90 at the moment, which is obviously that's fantastic. A lot of people are saying it's the best expansion Destiny's ever had, like better than the Taken King.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
So I'm really happy for the community. I'm happy for Bungie. And I mean, it's Destiny in it. So
yeah, for sure.
Cool. All right, then let's get into some news. So there has actually been a fair bit of stuff that's happened this week, which is a shame because I would have been happy to have just spoken about Elden Ring. But I think probably one of the biggest bits is that Activision have reported that they're not going to be releasing a Call of Duty game in 2023. And we've all been speaking about this since the acquisition of the idea of COD taking a year's break, either to up the quality of the game or to spin off some of those teams into their own non-Call of Duty teams. So the idea is that there will still likely be, according to, has it been confirmed? I think it has already been confirmed, hasn't it? That there will be a Modern Warfare game this year, and then next year will be a year off.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. And supposedly this was a decision made independently of the Microsoft acquisition, but you can't help but think like there's some level of influence there. Like, of course they don't own them yet, so they legally can't like pull any triggers or interfere and stuff like that, but you can't help but think there's a bit of influence there. So yeah, I mean, any thoughts on this at all?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's great. I think it's absolutely needed. I think we've always said, even we haven't bought Call of Duty for God knows how long, but like even back when we were buying them, we were saying we think Call of Duty could use some more time in the oven. You know, like we've always been I don't know, I'm blanking on the word, but we've always encouraged them taking longer and not spewing them out every single year. So I'm happy to hear this. Hopefully it will result in better games because they do make some of the best looking games, first person shooters, and they are very, very crispy in terms of shooting mechanics as well. They just lack that spice. They lack that little pizzazz going for them. They're just boring. So I think having some more time in the oven will obviously do it wonders. And yeah, I kind of agree with you where I feel like the seed was planted in the brain from Microsoft. In terms of this acquisition. Like sure we don't own them yet, but I think this discussion was had, and in the inevitable fact that we will own them at some point, they were just like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just start onboarding this process now. So yeah, I definitely think there was some influence there.
And I mean, it wouldn't it's difficult to say because on one hand, it wouldn't surprise me if Activision did finally think, okay, fine, we'll give COD a year's break after like the disastrous, Vanguard. But at the same time, it's Activision, and this has been happening year on year, where it's like getting like critically, like other than the Modern Warfare remake, they've been like getting critically worse and commercially, like I don't want to say worse because Warzone has continued to be a big success. So it just seems a bit strange that it's like, why now? Why is this the one that you've decided to like? Vanguard has done bad, but like it's only as bad as like COD Ghost, for example. Like other ones like that have also done just as bad. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can't help but feel that these two things are related a little bit, even if Microsoft weren't the ones to make the decision that they had a say in whether this or doesn't happen.
I think so. I think so.
Because I'm not actually opposed to the idea. Like, if CODs do start going to Games Pass, I'm not opposed to the idea of playing like a good COD campaign. They're usually like short and sweet, 6 hours long, 6 to 8 hours long, really polished, really pretty, high octane action campaign. I'm really not opposed to the idea of that if they deliver a good one. So if they need the extra time to make that happen, then by all means, bloody well do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Excellent. Okay, next up, Bethesda is due to drop their launcher on PC. They're retiring the Bethesda launcher and moving everything to Steam. And this is Microsoft's continued slow integration with Steam. And integration is too strong a word, but they are getting quite cozy with Steam. I think they are kind of accepting that they can't, for whatever reason, can't do their own launcher. Because they're it's not like they're moving their stuff to the Windows game launcher. They're moving it to Steam, and it's like at some point in the future, you can't help but think they're just going to retire the Windows launcher and just be like, we've got a whole Xbox section on Steam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's the fact that they can't make their own launcher. I just think it's the fact that Steam is just so ingrained. It is the PC launcher. Like, it's impossible. And for whatever reason, people get so triggered when anyone tries to move them away from it. It's just like, I don't really know what Steam does so well about being a launcher. But obviously, I'm not a PC gamer.
I don't think the UI is very good at all.
It's okay, the UI, but yeah, it's not fantastic. It's nothing special. It doesn't jump out to me as just like, oh my god, I have to use this over Origin or the Epic launcher or something like that. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
I'm not a PC gamer, so I mean, if anyone wants to tell me down below, feel free to. But I just think it's a case of it just has the market. It just has the PC market. For whatever reason, people don't like moving away from it. So Xbox is just like, let's just cut our losses. Sure, we'll pay Steam a fee to put all of our games on there or whatever, but in the long run, it's going to benefit us than trying to put people onto a different launcher that triggers them for whatever reason. So
yeah, that's right. Well, to be fair, I think there are, as much as you are right in saying that Steam is has such a monopoly on being the PC storefront. But at the same time, I have heard that the Windows game launcher is just quite buggy, doesn't always work. It's really slow and unresponsive. So I think there is an element of it's just not as good as well, which is fine. And I guess I can understand wanting to have all your games in one place. But yeah, I mean, like you say, I think there is a disproportionate reaction that PC gamers have to going to other launchers. Some people, Epic Games, have their own games with gold thing, don't they? Which is you don't pay anything, you literally just have it downloaded and you get free games and you own them forever. And people are still I hate the Epic launcher. they've got over $2,000 worth of games just sitting in the backlog. And I'm like, why?
Yeah,
just why?
I don't get it, man. But yeah, it's. I mean, if like you said, the Windows launcher isn't fantastic, there's still that argument of, let's be honest, you could put some resource into it and make it fine. They just probably haven't so far. But I think it just comes down to Steam having so much in the market share, and it's just if we're going to invest money to make it not buggy and improve it, let's just invest the money into just put our games on Steam instead, right? They're going to be more universally accepted. It's going to be the same cost, realistically, as if we were to just buff our own platform. Yeah, and I just think it was a no-brainer in the end, probably.
Yeah, it makes you think about what's going to happen to the Blizzard launcher. Once that's all finalized, are they going to keep that, or are they going to? This is what I mean. It makes me think that there is a long-term plan here, or some sort of long-term integration plans with Steam. Because why would they? keep the Blizzard launcher. Like, I don't know. So well, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
I think
But I
so.
think what's a really interesting bit of news that I think, while we're talking about Steam, is right at the bottom of the notes. Is Gabe Newell, obviously CEO of Steam, talking about putting Games Pass on Steam. He was asked a question in an interview with Gaming Bolt, and he said, Games Pass is clearly a popular option, and would be more than happy to work with them to get that on Steam. Like, if there wasn't already smoke, here it is. Like, I can't imagine Phil's looking at that and not licking his lips.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it is such a good fit, like to just integrate the two platforms. Especially when you think about like the Steam Deck and stuff like that, and just having Games Pass just mobile, so easily accessible, cloud gaming, even stream it straight to your Stream Deck and stuff like that. Yeah, man, it just makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I think, with I don't have it on the notes, but obviously the Steam Deck like reviews or like previews, whatever came out in the last week, and they're looking really good. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen some people say this thing is incredible, that it's no compromises, and a lot of people are saying I've been using this over my PC because it's just no hassle, and like, it's like, it's like, so it's like, what you kind of want from a console, but with the specs and a Steam storefront, which I assume is entirely why they made this. You can dock it to your TV and use it for the same purpose. And I can't help but think, Xbox wants, their whole mantra is getting games everywhere.
Mm.
If the Steam Deck, even if the Steam Deck doesn't kick off, like, I still reckon that they're going to be thinking, yeah, like, we want to have a Games Pass here. We want our catalogue of games here as well.
Yeah.
And that would be an enticing offer for me as well. I'd be raising an eyebrow for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's pretty clear Xbox. Sorry, Xbox has wanted to dive into this mobile, more mobile style of gaming for quite a while, with trying to make everything cloud accessible and play it on your phone and all that kind of stuff. And integrating it with Switch Deck. The Switch Deck, the Steam Deck, is essentially just it's like Xbox having their own little fucking Switch, right? It's just like they
That's
have
right.
they have market share in this portable gaming section now, just by doing that. So
Yeah, I can't help but think that this is going to be a very popular companion. Which, again, I'm sure that they factored in, like, a popular companion for people who already own a primary console, just because Xbox and PlayStation are getting in the habit of putting their games. Well, I mean, Xbox has been doing it for a while, but PlayStation as well. Getting games on there a bit later.
yeah,
If that makes it a bloody good offer, especially, as we said with Steam, one of the things people often compliment about Steam is that it has very regular and very good sales. Whether that will work for the games published by Sony and Xbox, I don't know, but I could feasibly see myself in a few years' time having a Steam Deck that has, even without like Games Pass on it, like even like owning one to play the PlayStation games when they finally come to it a bit cheaper,
yeah,
and then for other reasons as well. So yeah, I think it's a super exciting bit of equipment, and I'm really watching it quite closely.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely think it's something I could splash some cash on as well, later down the line. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, next up, just a small bit of news. Atlas, developers of Persona, the Persona franchise, and probably other games, I can't really remember. They've been, if you're not aware, skipping Xbox for like a whole generation now for no reason. They're just kind of like, yeah, well, nobody buys our games on there, do they? And it's like this circular reasoning. Like, they've been on Twitter before saying like, oh, the Xbox audience needs to show us that there's demand. And it's like, we can't do that if your game's not there, mate. Put it on and you'll get some sales, And it creates this kind of like effect where, it's a JRPG thing, where less JRPGs go on the Xbox storefronts, so less people buy JRPGs, and less people who own Xboxes are less familiar with JRPGs. So then when one finally does come, the sales are low. They're like, oh, see, nobody buys it on Xbox. It's like, like there's nothing genetically different between me and someone who buys a PlayStation 5. Like we are just human.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
this is a behavioral effect. It's not a genetic one.
Yeah, for sure. It's just from the fact that because of past experience or this I don't know, this image they have in their brain. It's just the Xbox audience has never been exposed to JRPGs as much as PlayStation, so naturally they're not going to gravitate towards one when it finally does come out. You can't just drip feed it, and then just be like, oh, it doesn't work. We've given one JRPG in 10 years, it doesn't work. It's just like, well, no. If you didn't drip feed it, you'd probably find the increase is actually quite nice and people adopting it.
Yeah,
but
that's right. That's right.
It takes time, these things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just for anybody who's interested, the name of the game that they have announced to be coming to all platforms is a game called Soul Hackers 2. Don't know what that means. Won't buy it, but I'm glad that Atlas have acknowledged we exist.
Didn't even know there was a Soul Hackers 1, but nice.
Maybe there isn't. Maybe it's just a trick.
It could be.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Fallout 76 has a new roadmap of its content additions over the year, and a really nice bit of artwork. Actually, I really like this roadmap picture.
It kind of reminds me of Risk of Rain. Risk of Rain. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a bit. I'll tell you what it is. Yeah, and just in case you want to see what we're looking at, just literally type into Google Fallout 76 roadmap, 2022 roadmap. It's because the artwork is negative space artwork. I really like negative space artwork.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's like Sea of Thieves was like that, wasn't it? Where it's like it's a skull, but it's not a skull. It's a cave. Yeah. Anyway, so I have seen some like mixed reactions to this from different people. Some people are obviously very happy that the game continues to get new content, and this is all everybody likes a roadmap. Some people are a bit disappointed that the pit is still so far away because that got announced like at last year's E3, I think.
Yeah,
they did like a little trailer because we were like, "Is this Fallout 5?" Just being obviously naive. And people are like, "Well, we're waiting till fall still." Like that's going to have made it over a year since the announcement of a DLC, like for an expansion of a game. So yeah, I think there's a bit of disappointment there, but nonetheless, we've said this before about Fallout 76. I'm glad I need to give this game a fair shake again at some point. And I'm glad it still exists because I think there is space for a multiplayer Fallout. But now is not that time.
Oh no, yeah, it's Elden Ring time. Exactly. Yeah. It's always good to see a game still kick in and just not ditched, for sure. And like you said, there is some space for it out there. I even think when we played it in its bare bones, I still think we like, even when it was kind of crap, we were just like, there's some cool stuff here. So it probably is quite good if we were to go back to it. So
yeah, agreed. Okay, next up, 2K has secured the Lego license for a range of sports games. This leak came from Andy Robinson over at Video Games Chronicle, or VGC. So starting with Lego Football by Sumo Entertainment, and a racing game by Visual Concepts. This is wild. This is a wild,
weird.
Acquiring the Lego license for sports games. What are you on about? What is it? Stop that.
I don't even know, man. It's so weird. I don't know what this thing is with the Lego games.
People love them, man. I don't know.
I just don't see it. Like,
I think
a sport game. Why would you play it in a Lego?
Well,
I just don't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? Like, it makes me think of like Mario sport games, but independent of them actually being a Mario game or not, somehow the teams who make those games make them like unique and make them work. So like the coat of paint of Lego really doesn't. Well, I mean, it doesn't tend to mean much because they tend to make them like decent, accessible games. But it is weird. It would be like if Xbox came out and they're like, we're making Minecraft Golf, like a standalone game, and I'd be like, what are you on about? Why are you doing
Unreal Engine?
Yeah. Man. I mean, take this how you. Although I used to play Lego Racing back in the day. It was like one of my first games I ever got on my little gaming laptop, little baby boy deck.
Okay.
And that game was a banger. Have you ever done this thing where you've gone on YouTube and watched games you played when you were really young?
Yeah, all the time. I actually recently did it with
All the time.
Yeah, I like to watch like reviews of like games I used to play when I was younger and stuff like that. I recently watched a review of that Ultimate Spider-Man game.
Oh,
You remember
yeah.
like the cartoony one with like Venom and everything in
Bop,
it?
yeah, he plays Venom.
Yeah, and there was like Wolverine was in it too. I fucking loved that game when I was a kid, and I couldn't remember because I was like, was there hype around this? Like, I wasn't like into the internet like sphere. I didn't know what like reviews were and like all this kind of stuff. So I was like, was this game actually popular? And I think it did fly under the radar a little bit, but yeah, I mean, the guy was saying that for like hardcore fans and stuff like that, it was like a really good game. And like a real gem. And I was like, I wasn't just a stupid kid. I actually liked a good game.
Yeah, definitely. No, I remember playing that game. Yours. I
So
particularly
good.
remember that Venom could break people's backs, and that it made this really horrible crunch noise when you do it. Like, that's the only thing I remember about that game.
Yeah. We always used to just go around snapping
Proper just
people's
like-
backs. Yeah.
And that was like a PG game. Like, why is he snapping people's backs?
I don't know, man. It was kind of crazy. It was wild, but it was a fucking great game.
Yeah, that's so funny. It's funny because I think we had this conversation a couple of weeks ago, and this is a bit of a tangent, and I don't want to go down it too far, but it's like that whole thing of like Spider-Man being like a big because that was an Activision game.
Yeah.
Spider-Man being this big multi-plat game, and the Spider-Man's just it's gone now. It's locked behind PlayStation, and it's like everybody like nobody brings that up that PlayStation was an IP that we could all play,
Yeah.
but now it's owned and locked down just on one console. But whatever. Yeah, it's just funny you bring it up.
There's the mob torches out. Pitchforks.
Yeah, that's all right. Today's not that day. Yeah, man. There's like a couple of games I have like that in my head where I'm like, there's like no. It gives you this really like nostalgia hits hard, man. Like when you watch one of these games and it gives me like this weird like tingly feeling in the back of my eyes and in my back.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? You're watching these games and I'm like, it's like I'm a kid again. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know what it is because I just remember them so vividly. And there was this game, Lego Racers, that Hercules game. Did you ever have? It was like a side scroller.
Yeah, I remember that one
with Danny, based on a movie. Danny DeVito was voice acting in it as well. That one, that was my first game. And there's one other. There was like this Bugs Bunny game as well that I had. It's called Lost in Time.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was like 6 months ago, I found myself like watching speed runs of that game.
Oh my god, that's weird.
I don't know because I literally was just like, I wonder what. Oh yeah, I remember that game, and I typed it in. I was like, oh my god, like this is what it looked like, and yeah, I remember those sound bites so clearly.
Yeah.
And I just ended up, going to, speed running it like in an hour and 30 minutes. So I'm like, oh, what am I doing with my life? Like,
yeah, it's weird, man. But yeah, it's nostalgia. Yeah, it's what carries the Nintendo fan base. It's powerful.
It's true. It is very powerful drug. Oh, speaking of which, new Pokemon just got announced today. Did you see that?
I did not. No. What?
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
Yeah, for real.
Does it come with a trailer and everything?
Yeah, it's like a teaser trailer, so it's like a live action thing with like bits of game, like in-game stuff happening in between. It looks just like Arceus. It looks exactly the same as Arceus.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So keeping that formula. Is it a 2022 launch?
That's a good question, actually. I don't know. Yeah, I would presume so.
Okay, that's really interesting. I'll have to watch that when we get off this. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Scarlet and Violet.
Nice.
Okay. Allegedly, man, this game has fucking fallen off, but Fall Guys is finalising development on Xbox, allegedly.
I see what you did there. Falling off.
I'm glad someone picks up on my genius.
You didn't know you did that. You did not know you did that.
My head hurts a bit too much to be making clever jokes like that. This. I think this game. No, I don't know if I should say that. I don't, because the game, it launched into PS Plus like exclusively, and it had like a week or two in the sun where it was like the game, the multiplayer game. It kind of had that kind of virality to it, and then it just died.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to say died, but I really feel like whatever Sony did, this whole fucking like
Just say
thing,
it. Just say it.
like I really feel like they have harmed the game in the long term by making that game exclusive to PlayStation Plus. That's essentially where I'm getting at here. If this game came to Games Pass, PC, I don't know if it came to PC already, or you know what I mean, all consoles, because it's now on Switch. But if it came to all consoles, I think it would probably still have like some social relevance.
I think
But
so. I agree.
when this launches on Xbox, I probably won't give a single shit. I think it is coming to Games Pass. I think that's already been announced that it's coming to Games Pass. But like one of the reasons it was so popular is because it launched in an empty window. You know, like it was like COVID summer. It was like that period where like there wasn't many games coming out. It was like, you know, the Animal Crossing period where that game exploded for the same reason.
Yeah.
And that period is gone now.
Plus, I think COVID kind of helped it with the fact that it was quite a social game. You know, you get like a really, it's like game night, like virtual game night when you're all in lockdown. Yeah. I mean, I remember looking at it back then, and I was kind of hyped for it. And then I realized it wasn't on Xbox and it wasn't coming anytime soon. And I was just like, I don't want to say I predicted it, but I was like, this game won't be relevant by the time it comes to us. It just won't be. Like, it doesn't have the legs to be relevant by the time it gets to us. And I think Sony knew that as well, and that's why they kind of locked it down. They were like, let's enjoy this 4 or 5 months with it. Really just blitz it out, and then when it's dead, fucking fine, give it to all the platforms.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like, I mean, I don't know the details of the arrangement. Obviously, I can't. It's an indie team, and I can't blame the team for taking that big paycheck from Sony to get it.
Yeah.
Like, I can't blame them at all for that. And obviously, it came to Switch. I want to say, I don't know, maybe
quite a while ago.
8 months ago. 8 months, maybe. Yeah, just under a year. And I don't know if that's because they are an indie team, and it just took them that long to port it. Same, and that now that's why Xbox is last as well, or if it's because the team said we want to put this on Switch, and they said that's fine, still not time to put it on Xbox though. So, and if that is the case, it's been like 2 years. Like, is this not a bit excessive? Because I really don't feel like this game is going to have any community on Xbox now.
No, I don't think so.
I feel like that's what I mean. I feel like it's excessive. Like 2 years locking it off on another console, like it's going to have harmed the game. I feel.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
I feel like at this point it's kind of a waste of time and resource, money, everything. It's just like just try and keep it alive on the platforms you have it on. I really. I mean, I can't predict these things. I don't know, but just based on what I think, I can't imagine it hitting pretty hard on Xbox, unless maybe it flies into Games Pass right off the bat. Maybe it'll have some legs to start with as a bit of a fun game. But we don't know if it's flying right into Games Pass, do we?
I can't remember. I feel like it has been announced that it's coming, but that was so long ago. If I have heard that. That was a long time ago. I
think the smart move and the only move, if they're this far in, is to just put it on Games Pass day one.
Yeah.
If they don't do that.
Yeah. Big fart dead. Yeah. Okay, well, next up, moving on from Big Fart Dead, is there's some Twitch integration coming to the Xbox UI, which is really good. I remember this happened like maybe 6 months ago on the PlayStation, and obviously this is a replacement for Mixer, God rest its soul, where it, as much as we don't stream, maybe we could though, if you're interested. It was always good to have that baked into, you know, the UI, and it was sad when that option went, because there were sometimes we did it, you know, I remember sometimes when we played Smite, and if like one of us was off, we'd just like stream all day, so some of us could just watch.
yeah,
have
exactly.
it on the background sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is good stuff.
Yeah, it's nice to see it come back, because we had Twitch integration way back when, didn't we? Back when back when snapping was a thing, there was a Twitch integration. Remember, you could snap and start a Twitch broadcast straight from your Xbox.
That's true. Back when Mixer was called Beam, and Xbox didn't have them yet.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think we just, for whatever reason, it just went. We just stopped supporting it, cut it out. Mixer came in, Mixer was the thing, and now Mixer's dead, and now Twitch is coming back. But yeah, way back when we did have a Twitch integration into Xbox, yeah, and we're just bringing it back.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. Next up, in terms of really sort of hardware changes, is that there are some VRS improvements coming. If you don't know what VRS is, that means variable rate shading, and it's just kind of a bit of hardware, wizardry to make games look better, optimize performance, etc., etc. So this, I don't have the tech expertise to walk you through why this is the case. All I know is that this is the case.
Yeah, actually, this just kind of reminded me. We're going back to Elden Ring slightly.
Go ahead.
I have heard that the PC version of Elden Ring is running pretty poorly.
Yeah, the technical, yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it's pretty trash, like heavy frame rate dips, crashes, all sorts of stuff. So I guess that's one negative thing we can say about it, because we basically only spewed positive stuff about it.
Yeah,
But this
right.
just reminded me that it has a pretty shit PC launch.
That's a fair point. I think From's tech chops have never been that good. I don't think they've been fine. But like the popping with the grass, I think is like, if that was happening in any other game, I would be like, I'd be. Thankfully, a lot of the other areas make up for it, and it's like it's not dreadful, but it happens quite often. And like supposedly there is a frame drop when it's raining. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's not much, but I can feel like 5 to 10 frames kind of fluctuating when it's raining. It's not much. And supposedly that was a problem before launch as well. And sometimes it can look a bit soft because it's running at like 1440. I think I'm just used to 4K, and it's like, again, like, can we not really make 4K 60 work here?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a hyper. I guess it is quite a busy world. Like, it's not hyper detailed, but it is busy. Anyway, yeah. So I think there are some technical things that From probably could work on. Maybe this will help for Xbox anyway. The VRS improvements. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. But yeah. Sorry, that just reminded me. But yeah,
that's right. It's worth bringing up. Okay. Next up, arguably one of the most exciting bits of news for the week. Supposedly, Fallout New Vegas 2 is in very early talks at Microsoft. Now, this doesn't mean that much to me, but to a lot of people I know, this means a lot.
It's pretty hype.
Yeah?
I love Fallout New Vegas. Fallout New Vegas is really, really good.
What, you like checklist RPGs? Elden Ring's ruined it for you, mate.
Fallout New Vegas was very, very good. Very good game, and I think doing a sequel to it's really smart. I don't think there's probably a single day has gone by inside of a Fallout subreddit where they're like, why is there no New Vegas 2? I don't think a single day has gone by. Like, I don't know because I don't stalk the Reddit, but I can just imagine like it really was a favorite of the community, New Vegas.
And obviously the reason why this is possible and why there has been a bit of excitement around this is because Fallout New Vegas 2 was not made by Bethesda. It was made by Obsidian.
Yeah.
And so there has been this kind of idea that now that they're both under the Xbox family, just share the IP and get them working on Fallout. And also, it would help get Fallout done sooner. Like, for such a popular IP, like, Fallout is almost as popular as Elder Scrolls. Mm-hmm. People forget about that quite often. Like, can you believe that? Can you believe Bethesda went from Fallout 3 to Skyrim?
Yeah.
Like, just back to back, like, in the space of 4 years. Like, that shit is crazy. But anyway, so the idea that Bethesda have Starfield lined up, then Elder Scrolls is going to be, like, 2025, maybe? That means we probably won't see a new Fallout 2029 to 2030. Till next gen. Like, that's generally, like, that's probably the timeline. It doesn't surprise me at all that they're like, we need to keep Fallout in the conversation over the next decade. Can we get Obsidian, like, because they're nutters anyway, get them working on another game, like another one of their 15 projects that they're working on. I can understand the excitement here. I wonder, I'd be really interested to see what they do with it, if like it would just be a New Vegas 2, or if it would be like a, Fallout New Angeles, Fallout New York.
New York.
Fallout New California. Yeah. Whatever. So, yeah, I am interested in this. Fallout New Vegas 2, however, no, fuck. Fallout New Vegas is a game like Bioshock, like last week, that I just couldn't get into. I've since tried, just couldn't do it. Which doesn't make any sense because I've played Fallout 4 and I had quite a good time, and supposedly Fallout 4 is like the low point of the series.
Yeah.
But I just think it hasn't aged well for me, and sometimes that's
Oh
just
yeah,
how
I
it be.
mean, it hasn't aged well. You go back there and it's just brown. It's all brown.
It's just brown.
It's all grey. I mean, I get it. It's post-apocalyptic. All Fallout games are kind of brown, but that game is seriously brown. Like, if you love brown, you love that game. I tell you that much.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, Obsidian, what Obsidian do best is their writing, their RPG systems, and usually their like branching narratives, you know, with decisions and everything. And obviously that 4 was right in line with what a Fallout game is. And this is like easy. This is like an easy win for Xbox. The amount of people with it, that'd be a system seller. That's a huge deal, you know, for getting Fallout New Vegas back. And I would love to give that series a go with like a more modern take on it. So, and we've since the Bethesda acquisition, we've always spoke about this idea of the different teams and IPs like kind of working together. You know, like, oh, we're just going to take that now. Oh, can we use that? You know, and just even though Obsidian already have that history with Bethesda outside of the whole Xbox acquisition, it's nice to see, if this is to be believed, that this is very much a thing. Like they're going to have that integration. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's really exciting, and it just goes back to the conversation of all the things we talked about back when the acquisition happened, and there's just so much potential there. So much resource to be used and to be shared, to pump things out faster, or to just it is really, really good.
Great. Okay, so we've got 2 stories left here. I want to save the one around PlayStation's subscription service till last, so just because I want to skim over Nintendo's one, because it's a small bit of news. If you didn't know, Nintendo made an acquisition this week, and they acquired SRD. Can't remember what it stands for. It's something research and development, software research and development. Anyway, this team is like, they've been working with Nintendo. They're like sharing office with them, and they've helped make them like most Mario and Zelda games. So this is just like defensive, like get off my property kind of thing by the sounds of it. It doesn't make much of a difference to anyone, but it is weird to see Nintendo acquire someone.
It's kind
of doesn't seem like their style, does it?
No. First acquisition ever, maybe?
Yeah, I've got no idea.
Yeah, I don't actually know. It's maybe a joke. But yeah.
Imagine how hilarious that'd be if like Xbox like had acquired this team. They're like, yeah, you can't do that. We own them. We don't. Oh my god, we don't.
Jesus, something we don't own.
Yeah. So yeah, I wonder if that will if Nintendo will make any more acquisitions. I mean, I can't imagine they will.
No.
Like I think they have their formula down in terms of what devs they work with and who they vet to make, you know, take their licensed properties. Like with Metroid, that was Mercury Labs. I can't remember, something like that. Anyway, yeah, you get my point. They have like a clear system for who they allow to work on their IPs, and I think they are quite hands on. So yeah, this is just offensive. To stop them being picked up by someone else, which I don't think would have been a Sony Microsoft thing. It would have been like a Tencent thing, or it's probably just Tencent actually. So yeah. All right. Supposedly, PlayStation have a show. What do they call them? State of Play, coming up in March. Supposedly, it's the big one. It's like the E3 kind of equivalent. And within that, supposedly, we're going to hear the details on their Games Pass competitor, Spartacus, which we have already spoken about in a previous episode, and we have more details about what these tiers, how this is kind of going to look. And so I guess the first thing I wanted to kind of mention was that Xbox has been quite quiet for a bit, haven't they?
Yeah, I'd say so.
We haven't really heard much like what's going on. Like we know there's like Redfall at some point this year. Don't know when. We know that there's Starfield at the end of the year. Like what's happening between now and then? Talk to me.
Yeah, yeah,
So I can't help but feel that PlayStation kind of know that, and they're going to capitalize on the silence a bit because, like, this is going to be like I imagine a couple of new announcements. I imagine it will be just maybe before Gran Turismo 7 comes out, so they'll probably show some new footage of that, show some more God of War, maybe get a release date, which is obviously going to be a huge deal. Yeah, and maybe like a sequel, something. Don't know.
yeah.
So, I mean, hopefully Xbox have something to talk about before then, or at least say, yeah, we've got a show in April, because they just have so much. We spoke about this I think it was last week, this idea of Xbox having more smaller shows rather than just relying on a single big one.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So nonetheless, that's happening, and this Games Pass competitor, or Spartacus, it may be announced there, which is obviously going to be quite a big deal. So what we've essentially got here is 3 tiers, and I think when we last reported on this, that was the information we had as well, and it was coming from Jeff Grubb over at GamesBeat, and it is now as well. So the first tier is supposedly PS Plus Essential, the second is PS Plus Extra, and the third is PS Plus Premium, and the prices are $10, $13, and $16 a month, respectively. The first tier just includes monthly games. So what is essentially already PS Plus, I presume. I think that's the base Games Pass subscription.
Yeah. So were they just
Equivalent.
charging people for PlayStation Plus games now?
No, sorry, I think I got that wrong. So I think that would be the Games Pass. Monthly games, there's like 100 games that cycles in and out. And then the second one here says monthly games and game catalog. And I don't know what that means.
To me, game catalog sounds like the Games Pass.
Do you think?
Yeah. I mean,
I
consider Games Pass to be a game catalog. I consider monthly games as the the additional 1 or 2 that get added to the game catalog every month. So it sounds like that the first tier is literally just like
it's normal PS Plus.
It's just normal PS Plus you're now essentially being charged for, which I'm not sure how that's going to go down.
Well, I think it's already $10, so maybe that's just what that is.
Yeah,
They just don't rebrand it.
But this doesn't seem to include a PlayStation Plus subscription to just their online service, or is that free? I can't remember.
No, you have to pay for it.
So PlayStation Plus isn't in here. It doesn't say it's in any of these tiers.
It doesn't. But I'm assuming. My assumption is that that's the same thing.
Okay.
Like it wouldn't make sense to.
So it's included.
Charging. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
I would assume so.
And then yeah, to me sounds PlayStation Plus Extra, the second tier, sounds like, you're going to get those monthly games added, but you're also going to get the whole catalogue of the 200 games that we're going to be putting in there to start with, like you can essentially the Games Pass library, right? With additional monthly games that you get every single month. And then the premium is everything with added streaming, classic games, like a sort of like Nintendo have done, like almost like a Virtual Boy sort of backwards compat.
Xbox original,
yeah, and then game trials where it allows you to try the game for a couple hours, right? I think Xbox do that for some titles in the store as well. Whether that will be every single game within the game catalog, so like would I be able to trial God of War for an hour? I don't know. Yeah. It's quite unclear whether or not that applies to the entire catalogue and new games.
Well, this is the thing, because supposedly what had previously been reported on is that Sony's first-party games won't launch into this service.
This is literally what I was just about to say. I see nothing about first-party games here. You would have thought they'd scream that from the rooftops, wouldn't you? They'd just be like, monthly games plus or like games catalog, including our first party titles. They wouldn't just write game catalog. They'd kind of want it to make it a big deal. So yeah, it is quite interesting that this might not include that, which to me is the biggest deal about Games Pass. I mean, it's great that I have all sorts of games in there. I can download Neo Automata and play it. That's fantastic. But like, the biggest selling point for me is to know that everything coming up, I've got, Avowed, Redfall, fucking Starfield, fucking Halo. They have to do anything.
Yeah.
They're just there for me. And yeah, if PlayStation were doing this, they would 100% be very clear about it. And it doesn't sound like they're going to be doing it based off this.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I think that's a real, like, because how I'm thinking this is that if they're not going to be putting the first party games day and day, like maybe they come a year later or whatever, the game trials are for those games, which it like is like in the context of like if this was the first console subscription service, you'd be like, that's a pretty good deal. I get to try God of War and then I can buy it. But when you stack it up to Games Pass, it's like, oh, this isn't even close. Why do I have to pay to have a trial? Why can't I just have a trial?
Yeah.
I and like 16 for that one at the bottom for like streaming, which like, do you have to have Games Pass Ultimate to do streaming? Like, I honestly don't know. I don't think you do.
I'm gonna say no. I don't think you do either, but I'm not certain. But my hunch is saying no.
And I also don't feel like, and again, this is just how they've over at VentureBeat have decided to present this information to us on this little like grid. Like the fact that classic games is there is kind of like, why are you being charged more for classic games? Like, I guess maybe there's some extra effort involved there importing some older stuff, but it feels a bit weird to be like, here's like a collection of games. Oh, but you have to pay a bit more to get some of those older games. Like, it's just like, is this a subscription service, or is this kind of like?
It just kind of feels.
Why is it
like,
so tiered?
Yeah, it just kind of feels like they needed to add that little extra something to justify like an extra tier. They were probably just like streaming and game trials. They were like, it's not really enough. Throw in some classic games too, then. Something like that, just to like kind of sweeten the pot. It feels like a bit of an add-on. It doesn't really. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll have to see what the official announcement is like. I'm sure these prices aren't set in stone, but that's looking a bit too expensive, honestly. Like you get more value out of a Games Pass subscription for the same price, and you get day and date releases, which, like you said, I think most people would consider to be the biggest selling point. So we will have to have a look and see if they do announce a state of play in March, and if this is announced. Overall, I think it's a good thing, but I'm not sure how competitive that sounds. But I'm sure they'll adjust it as we go forward.
Yeah.
All right. That's everything for today. My head is killing me because if you hadn't already tell, I look like shit.
Can I just interject? I think you do need a Games Pass Xbox, an Ultimate, to do the cloud streaming.
Right. Okay.
I just gave it a quick Google, so I think you do need to have Ultimate.
Fair enough. And I'm interested to know what they mean by streaming in this context. Like, is it streaming to what? Like, do they don't have an xCloud equivalent, do they? Does they have, like, remote play?
I don't know. Maybe they'll announce something.
Maybe
that's part of the show. The new platform to do cloud gaming, and it's also available on our premium service.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, it is... Yeah. I think it doesn't sound as competitive as I think a lot of people wanted it to, but it's a good place to start. I think these are good value offers, these subscription services, especially for the first party games, even if they won't be doing it day and date, which I think that's the biggest blow. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, indeed. All
right. Show's over, everyone. As I was saying, my head is really killing me, so I'm going to go take some ibuprofen. And I'm going to play some Elden Ring.
Do it, man.
Tim, do you have any thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I want to go play Elden Ring. Fucking sign it off.
Elden Ring. Okay, everyone. Well, thanks for coming to episode 45 of the Quick Resume podcast. You've been an absolute delight. We'll catch you next week when we're another 40 hours deep into Elden Ring.
Sounds good.
Bye bye.